Okay, in all seriousness this time, I actually have something reasonable and, oh, what is that word? Logical to talk about. I apologize in advance. I'm a bitch about it, but, I've kind of dealt with a lot of shit, and I have very strong opinions on that. So what I want to talk about is bullying in school. I know I've already made a video for this on a different account, but I kind of have some involved views. First thing, to me, bullying doesn't just go as shoving people into walls and lockers and shit like that. It's anything that makes a person feel unsafe in any way, emotionally, mentally, or physically, or just anxious all the time, then I think that is considered bullying. So, insulting someone, their family, threatening, just anything. Especially if it's just a one-time thing, or if it's a friend and you know they're joking, that's different. But when it's people that you don't know who are doing it constantly all the time, just because they know they're hurting you, that's a bully, and that's not good. And I know from the perspective of a younger person that a lot of times people in school don't want to go and report it. I mean, the older you get, the less you want to report it. I should probably mention this. Because it makes you feel like a wimp, or like snitch is a nice word that gets thrown around a lot. It makes you feel like shit to report it. Because it makes it seem like you couldn't deal with it on your own. But that's not really the case. It's more like you couldn't, you tried, you shouldn't really deal with it on your own. You should have help. Because shit like that's serious. I've known some people who've gone to extremes, myself included, after being bullied, and it's no one should be made to feel like they're worthless, and all the time, all the time, people I know, including myself, feel that way, and that's actually why I moved, was because when my parents divorced, my mom moved to Nightdale, and then we moved in with her because of problems with my dad. But the school I went to there, for 5 months, I dealt with this shit. It ranged from, it just continued getting worse. First it was just, hey, who's that girl, and being ignored. And I was okay with that. I like being ignored, actually. It went from that to people knew my sister, and they started trying to get me to do things my sister would have done. And I don't roll that way. I don't swing that way either. Yeah. And she's like, oh, Hannah, it sounds like that's so fun. To you, maybe because you've done it before. To me, I'm focused on surviving these next 5 months. Which I didn't know it was gonna be 5 months then, but yeah. So I was just like, okay, no, no, no. And then people thought I was a bitch. So they started treating me like a bitch. And ended up being bitches themselves, and assholes, and bastards, and just general idiots, and really, really nasty people. Like the kind of people, if your children were hanging around on you, you'd be like, no, you vermin, scum of the earth. Yeah. And then they started like all the verbal abuse and shit, and then after that, it just progressed, and it actually became physical violence against me. And no one, it seemed like no one noticed it, like at all. Like there was a reason. There was a reason I did not dress out for gym. Not because I couldn't, because if I did, there was a good possibility that my clothes would be gone when I got back. And honestly, it wasn't even a good possibility. It's just they would be gone when I got back. And I know that's not something big, but like being locked in lockers, shoved into walls, people running into you on purpose with their shoulders when you're walking the hallways. That's a bigger deal, and some very interesting shit happened after that, and it was my fault because I let it get to me, but at the same time, it wasn't, because no one should have to deal with that. Human beings should be better than to do that, and they weren't. So I jumped off the deep end, sort of, so to speak. No, I wouldn't call that jumping off the deep end. I didn't go that far, but I did do some pretty bad shit, and it, no one should be made to do that. And I know other people who have too, and who have dealt with less, who started doing that. And it's really just all about the person who's having to deal with this stuff. Some people can't hold out as long as others can, so no one should be put in a situation like that. I mean, I'm not saying no one should be put under stress, and no one should not, and people shouldn't realize that some people are just jackasses. But when it's half a school against one person or three people who are very good friends and despised for it because they're the only people who will be friends with each other, that's something you just want to avoid. Now, I had friends, but I had like 3 or 4 good friends that I really, really trusted. Now, I'm not going to name names. They know who they are, if they even watch my videos. But now I'm at this school and things are better, but I still deal with some shit. Like, now it's mostly because of what I did after I dealt with this stuff at my old school. And, yeah. I get told it. I get told at least a few times a week that I should go kill myself. And thanks, jackass. I wonder if I actually did. Would you realize it was your fault? Because it would have been. I mean, people can only be told so many times that they're worthless and they're a piece of shit and they'd be better off dead before they start thinking, how could so many people be wrong? And I've thought that before. I still think that sometimes. And I'm still here, but other people might not be. And other people aren't. And also, if you do something to a person to the point where they commit suicide, because that's kind of what I'm talking about here, you're not just hurting that person who took their own life. You're hurting the family who now has to deal without them, and you're hurting the friends, and you're hurting yourself. Do you want to have someone's blood on your hands, inadvertently or not? Do you really want that to be haunted for the rest of your life by how horrid you treated this one person to the point where they decided life wasn't worth living? And also, another thing is, it's not so much that life isn't worth living, it's just that you're sure that everybody would be better off without you. Sure, they might cry for a few months, but other than that, they'll move on. And other things you might do, it's not about killing yourself. It's not about ending something. It's about keeping yourself going. It's something that distracts you for a little while until you can keep going and you can keep moving and keep pretending that everything's alright. But it's really not. So it's not about ending something or killing yourself. It's about saving yourself, really, in the end. From all the pain and the heartache and, God, from the vicious monsters that call themselves human beings. I'm ranting, aren't I? Yeah. But that's okay, because I think it needs to be heard by someone. And even if 2 people watch this video, maybe I'll have helped someone. See you guys in a little bit. Bye.